Alright, so this is an initial wear test of the Naroo mask I've sent for testing. I am here in Maine. It's about 14 degrees today. It's very windy. Right now I am not doing any physical activity other than I went for a walk and I'm walking around. I am wearing goggles because I wanted to see if there were any fog issues. I'll wear goggles again tomorrow on my biking test, and then that way be able to show if there's any fog. Right now I'm not getting any fog, walking around, talking, breathing. So initial thoughts on the mask. I will say that the plastic sort of frame is, because I think of my larger face, it is a little uncomfortable. I do have other plastic mask frames that I use for other masks, and they are a little bit larger. Again, I'm very tall and I have a larger than average face. So that frame is probably this frame is probably more geared towards sort of people with smaller to medium-sized faces. That said, it does keep the fabric away from my mouth so that I can breathe. As you can see, I'm going to breathe in and breathe out and try to show you the little contraption on the front. Notice that little front contraption, open and close. Now this mask, I think, is being developed to sort of help people when they're exercising outdoors, not breathe in cold air. I'll say it does work for that purpose. When I breathe in, I'm getting air from the sides over here, and the air then is coming across my cheeks before going in my mouth. And even just that little bit prevents you from directly inhaling cold air from the outside. Secondarily, there's this one-way valve, these little one-way flaps that when I breathe out, they open and allow my exhale to go outwards into the air. But when I breathe in, the flaps close and the air has to then be brought across my cheek and elsewhere. That does seem to work. The air is less cold as I'm breathing it in. It doesn't really feel cold in my mouth at all. And it's certainly not sort of cold on my lungs. I can certainly see while I'm exercising that being improved even further. So all in all, in this initial test, I think that is working. Again, just for me, the frame isn't a great match. I almost think it would be better if the outer edges of the frame were silicone rather than a hard plastic, or if they had some type of coating or more flexibility at the edges of the frame to just match sort of different face sizes. All right, so hopefully you can hear this. I'm running with the Naroo RZ5 mask. So far, it's 15 degrees, 20 mile an hour winds. So technically it feels like 7 degrees. And the breath breathing in is not too bad. It actually is warmed up. So the mechanisms of the mask are working while running. That said, there are some issues. Like I said in my prior video, I've got a large face. I'm 6'5", so I'm a big guy, and the frame just doesn't really fit well around my mouth and jaw area. Part of that's because the frame isn't flexible, right? So it's just hard. So it just sort of slides around. And there's really no way to tighten or change that shape so that it works better. So as I run, and of course I'm bouncing along, I have to keep pulling the mask into position. That makes it really difficult, and I can imagine that if I were on my bike or another activity where my hands aren't as free, that would be even more of a challenge for me. Like I said, the mask just, the frame anyway, inside, just keeps migrating up. So it just moves up, and then I have to pull it down again, and within 30 seconds or so, it rides back up. So that's annoying. That's annoying to deal with. Again, the hard plastic is a little bit challenging. They've done a good job of rounding out the edges, but it's still a hard plastic frame. I think it would be better if it was like a softer silicone, or if there was some other mechanism to keep the mechanics of the mask away from your face. So, I mean, that's that. So, recap. Pros. The mechanism works. You can see as I breathe in and out, the one-way flap valve seems to be working as expected. It does keep the air warm, especially on this super cold day. Cons. Again, mask movement. It sort of moves all over the place. It's not super comfortable. So usually I can get used to having the mask on my face. I run in a running group and we wear masks for the entire run. I run with one of those face mask frames, the plastic, and although it's hard plastic, it's shaped in such a way that it doesn't bother my face at all. As a matter of fact, I generally forget it's there, and I'm running 5-6 miles in the cold with it. One additional point is that it's pretty loose around the top of the nose area. I'm not sure what function that serves or if that's intentional, but the gap between the sides of my nose and my face and the mask is pretty wide. Sorry, running by cars here. So it's nothing to worry about now, but certainly if there was moisture or something else, I guess I would just expect a better fit around the nose, more of a cutout, and more of a shaped angle for that. Update you on the next one.
So I just got finished running 6 miles. I was running out there for 50 minutes or so. Ran the whole time in the mask. As you can see, fairly damp. I mean, it's pretty wet, obviously. You can even see some frozen moisture here. Probably some of my snot, some of my exhalation. I mean, the frame does help keep it away from your face so that, you're not sucking in wet fabric. Which, if you've run with a mask, you know how troublesome that can be. I don't know how fast it'll dry. It is a synthetic material. I often look for synthetic materials for winter wear that wick quickly, that dry quickly, because I don't want anything wet against my skin. If, in case for any reason I get stuck out in the cold, you don't want to have any wet fabrics on you. So, I mean, this is pretty soaked. I'll come back and check it in like hour. I'll hang it up and see how dry it is and give a good indication as to how fast this material wicks. All right, so I can't really show you on camera, but after it's been almost an hour, actually. I had the mask just hanging out in the garage, and the material is still just soaked. So, although it is synthetic, there doesn't appear to be any, real wicking capabilities overall. It's going to hold that moisture for the duration of your activity.
All right, so I'm running with a Naroo mask again. It's about 21, 22 degrees Fahrenheit with high winds, like 30, 40 miles an hour. So I think it's effectively in the low teens for temp. Again, the Naroo mask does help with the air. When you first start out, it still has a little bit of cold, obviously, and then as you warm up and that air is drawn against your cheeks when you breathe in, it certainly helps. And I seem to have dialed in the fit. So I tightened the strap at the back all the way, and I make sure the mask, you can't see it with this hat on, but it has a strap over the top of the head. And so I made sure that's as far forward as possible. And in that way, I haven't had any issues with the mask dropping or riding too much, right? It's pretty much staying in place, even as I run. I tried a few different paces, and it seemed all right. So, again, if you're in a very cold environment, I can see the mask helping. It's a little bit overkill for runs like this, where it's cold, but the sun's out, and you warm up within 10 minutes, and in that 10 minutes, or after that 10 minutes passed, I probably wouldn't need the mask anymore. But I'm going to run the whole, hour run today wearing it, just for testing purposes. So yeah,